I want to talk about revenue generation a little bit. And you have
Okay.
a really good approach and philosophy around this. So, like, what's a common misconception that you feel like businesses have around generating revenue, and how can some entrepreneurs overcome those misconceptions?
In our industry in construction, we generate revenue through billable hours. All right. You do not have a billable hour, you don't have revenue. So everybody, when I ask the questions in classes and stuff, how do you generate revenue? It's service, projects, new construction, whatever else it is. And it's not how you generate revenue. That is the result of revenue generation. So if you have a billable hour, that billable hour could generate service, it could generate new construction, it could generate replacement, maintenance, whatever. But it's the billable hour. So for every billable hour, you need to know how much drops to the bottom line. You need to know how much what overhead cost per hour you have to add, and what net profit per hour for each billable hour you want. And percentages don't matter, margins don't matter. And this is going to sound really crazy because it's a very different way of looking at the world. It is the way that you make profit,
Hmm.
right? So, I can show you two guys who both had a quote unquote 10% net profit, one of which who was earning $10 net profit per hour, the other who was earning 50. Which would you rather be?
Right. Yeah.
And I was in a conversation with an $8 million contractor a couple of weeks ago, and we calculated his net profit per hour was $16 an hour. I can go to a fast food restaurant and make $16 an hour.
Right.
He was not a happy camper. He was shocked.
Yeah.
So you really and truly need to look at how we generate revenue, which is through billable hours. We're not like a restaurant who generates revenue through a meal, or a bar who does it through a drink, or my gym who does it through our membership and stuff like that. We generate revenue. If there's no billable hours, there is no revenue. So if
Hmm.
they're in a meeting, if they're walking around the shop, if they're going to get gas and they spend 6 hours, I'm exaggerating, they spend an hour getting gas and checking out, they're going to the supply house and checking out all the stuff. That's not billable. It's
Yeah.
just not billable. And so as a result of it, your net profit per hour goes down because, if you're going to pay your guys 40 hours a week, they need to be billable most of
Yeah.
that 40 hours a week, minimum of 80%.
Yeah.
So
So
that's how I look at the world.
I like that approach. How do you, when you're sitting down with the contractor for the first time and you're working through calculating that billable hour, how are you calculating it? And then what are the steps you take to then increase that billable hour?
Okay. So they're not tracking their hours. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, they're not doing it. So what we do is, depending on where they are in the year, like if we're towards the end of the year, we'll take this year's numbers and we'll take their overhead costs for the entire year, let's say through October. And then we'll look at their payroll data through October, and we'll take all their field personnel, and we'll take out vacations, we'll take out holidays, we'll take out, they can estimate how many meetings they have, and how many, they went to training class or something like that. And that's our billable hours. And then our billable dollars are whatever their hourly rate is times their billable hours. Some of it might be overtime and stuff like that. So it's a spreadsheet. It's not
Yeah.
hard to do. It's just a spreadsheet. And then we take it, some of them departmentalized, some of them might have plumbing, electrical, HVAC, generators, pool and spa. Some of them have 4 or 5 departments, some of them have 2. And if they have 1, we just do it for the company overall if they're starting out. And then we look at spreading it based on, for departments, based on space issues, and based for everything else is people. So space issues are rent, utilities, building maintenance, building repairs. Up north, it's snow removal,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then the rest of it is spread that way. And we figure out what each department's overhead cost per hour is. And then pricing is very simple. What net profit per hour do you want? What's your overhead cost per hour? Add it to it. That's your gross profit per hour. How much does your highest guy make? You add that to it. And then if they're billable 100% of the time, that's your hourly rate. But most of them are not billable. If they're billable 50% of the time, you have to double that
Yeah.
to get your hourly rate. And that's how you do it. It's not hard. It's just a very different way of thinking
Yeah.
that has not been taught. I mean, in the old days, and I'm guilty of this too, in the 80s, I taught divide by one minus the gross margin for pricing. I try to get everybody off of markup because that was on cost. But I did the same thing until about 2002, 2003, 4, somewhere around there. And I was working with a group of contractors, all of which who had the same gross margin. Some were doing well and some weren't. And the thing, light bulb when duh, goes on. And it's like, okay, we haven't considered overhead in this. Some were more efficient than others.
Yeah.
So I trained them first. And it took me almost 2 years for all of them to get it, which surprised me because they were paying me and I still got resistance. But they won't go back. And everybody who does my pricing class online, I get emails from, thank you, I'm finally making money. I'm finally knowing what I need to do. And knowing this actually gives you choices. And I can give you another example of this.
Yeah.
One of my clients does plumbing and HVAC commercial only, new construction, replacement, service, maintenance. And their 2 new construction crews finished a job in October-ish, didn't have anything major on the books until spring. So what do you do with them? You can't lay them off. They're great crews. They'll have a job in 2 seconds. If you carry them all winter long, then guess what happens to the profitability of that department? It's in, toilet. So this public works job came up, started end of November, beginning of December, and ended in the spring. We had to get that job. So we knew overhead cost per hour. We knew how many hours are on the job. We knew the material costs. We knew the equipment costs, and we knew the labor costs. What we didn't know was net profit per hour for that job. So we went back and forth about it. And we decided that since we only had to break even on this job to keep them busy and, little bit of profit, we bid it at $5 net profit per hour. In my book, that's break even, right? Because you never know. If you went over by 1 hour, guess what? Job lost. So I do it at $5 and I consider that break even. When we job costed the job, it came in at $6 net profit per hour. So how low you can go this methodology. It's not a percentage or anything along those lines, which is a guess. We can't take a percentage to the bank. Percentages are guesses. They really and truly are. And you just don't know it. That's how I price.
What do you do on bid jobs?
Depends.
I mean, HVAC and guys like that, are billing by the hour, bid jobs, installation, concrete.
Yeah, some of them we will pay them by the job so that we can fix labor cost.
Mm-hmm.
But they still need to know, it doesn't matter what business you're in, you can still do this.
Yeah.